everyone. Pastor George here with today's Bible study recap. And today in Bible study, we looked at Matthew chapters 6 and 7. We're finishing up the Sermon on the Mount. And remember last week, and this is still an important thing this week, the big thing to focus on was in Jesus' giving of the law, the interpretation of it that contrasted with the scribes and the Pharisees, right? That they're giving, they have another kind of oral Torah that they've been teaching, and Jesus is saying, no, that's not the correct understanding of the law. This is the correct understanding of the law. And so he does a lot of citation from the Old Testament or what people are saying, and then gives them his teaching in response to that, or to clarify what the Old Testament is teaching. And of course, we're coming like in the middle, 1/3 of the way in. We finish it up today because this is where the section shifts away from law giving, although there is still important commands that Jesus gives in here, but instead to discipleship and how a Christian lives. And you're going to see this right at the beginning of 6, right? Because he's going to contrast a lot of what Christians should do with the hypocrites. Hypocrites here, Greek word meaning actor. Jesus uses this to talk about the religious authorities who do these things but do it for their own glory rather than doing it because God told them to do it, right? So he says, you don't give in order to be seen by people. You don't sound a trumpet so people know you're there. These are practices that were going on at the time, right? You don't give people things so you can be praised, right? Do not let your left hand know what your right is doing. He famously says here, right? And when you pray, you're not supposed to pray like the hypocrites. You don't pray in order to be seen by other people. Some people take this and they interpret this as though you can never pray in public, which isn't true. Jesus is about to pray in public, right? Those Facebook comment sections, you know what I'm talking about, or comment sections in general on videos, right, or things like that. What do people do is they look at small verses and they go, oh, this is why we can't, this is why you should never pray in public. It's can't pray in a public school or whatever. It's like, come on, guys, it's not what he's saying. It's selective reading, right? The important thing is, what is the purpose of your prayer? Is it to be seen and to be praised? You'll notice he also says that he critiques Gentile prayers, which is that they think they will be heard for their many words. And this is a way of that Gentiles, pagans, used to hedge their bets, as they would mention as many things as possible, because the idea is if you didn't explicitly mention it, the gods didn't have to answer it, right? So you would pray for a lot of stuff, long, elaborate prayers. I remember there's even I can't remember, it's in one of the Roman histories. They do a festival and they forget one thing and then they have to do the whole thing over again. So this is a common practice at the time. Christians aren't supposed to be like that, right? God knows what you want. The purpose of prayer is to connect with God, not to be seen by others or to get what you desire. And then he gives them the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father, whatever you call it, and he gives that to them. And this is supposed to be a like this. Of course, this is something we should and can pray. But really, this is a template by which we can see how to think and interact with God everywhere from desiring for his kingdom and his will to be done, to asking for things that we need, and to remind us that we are sinners and that we should be forgiving other people as we have been forgiven, and to stay away from evil. Right? And Jesus reminds us that we should forgive other people because God will forgive us. But if you do not forgive others, God will not forgive you. And then fasting, right? Don't do it in order to look super holy and important, right? Not like the hypocrites. That's not why you fast, right? You fast as a spiritual practice. You do not lay up treasures on earth. Again, this is something that is always critiqued of religious leaders, but really everyone, right? Is the idea that people are laying up treasures on earth, right? And Jesus says, don't do that. And he talks about the eye. The eye here is a symbol for how things come into the body. The good eye looks to God. The bad eye looks to the treasures on earth, right? You can't love both God and money. Tells them not to be anxious in light of that, right? And how God loves the lilies of the field and the ravens of the air. And he cares about those, so, what can you worry about? Nothing. And God will take care of you. Do not judge. Again, the judgment here is not, this is another favorite that a lot of people use against religious people. I see a lot online, right? This isn't a blanket statement. Jesus goes on to judge. He says, "Do not throw your pearls before pigs." Okay, that's a judgment on kind of what this means and what these people are, right? These unrepentant people. Okay, it's not saying you can't judge at all. It's what type of judgment are you doing? You're pronouncing judgment. You're acting as though you are the eternal judge, and you have no ability to do that. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks it is open. Cling after God. Run after God. Desire to hear from Him, and you will. Right? So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. For this is the law and the prophets. The golden rule, right? Although the golden rule is, though, as we are normally taught it, at least as I, is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But I like how, I believe that's from the King James Version. I could be wrong, but at least that's how it's commonly presented. But you'll see here that the Greek here is much more proactive, and this is reflected in a lot of modern translations. So the ESV says, "So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them." So it's not just treating other people the way you want to be treated. It's thinking, oh, I want to be treated this way, so I'm going to go out of my way to do that for other people. So it's not just big, oh, I'm going to be nice to people because I want people to be nice to me. That's certainly a part of it, okay? I'm not saying that's not. But it's like, oh, you know what I would like? I would like if people, let me, if I'm in a rush, let me cut in front of line at them at the supermarket. So I'm going to let this person who's rushing, I'm going to be proactive about it and actually let them do it without even asking me, right? So it's stuff like that. He then warns them about false prophets. Pay attention to the fruit of people who are teaching. Jesus tells them then that everyone who says, "Lord, Lord," that means intimacy, who says they have intimacy with Him, everyone who says that will not enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, "Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name?" And then I will declare to them, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness." Again, very harsh judgment. Again, judgment, right? It's a lot of judgment going on here. But again, it's not about the way that you relate to Jesus or how intimate you are with Him. It's, do you actually make Him Lord of your life and do the things He requires you to do? Christianity is hard, right? That's the important thing to remember. Build your house on the rock. This is how Jesus ends His sermon, right? Build it on the rock. And who is the rock? Jesus, right? The one who takes these words and does them is the one who builds his house on the rock. The one who doesn't is a foolish builder who's built it on sand. And he says, "And the rain fell, and the flood came, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it." And when Jesus finished these sayings, the crowds were astonished at His teaching, for He was teaching them as one who had authority and not as their scribes. And this is where I bring it back to last week, right? There is this bookend. A lot of this is aimed at the religious leaders in the contrasting of Jesus' teaching with their teaching, Jesus' interpretation of the Torah with the oral interpretation of the Torah that was popular and still is popular today among Jewish people, right? There's those differences. There's also, Jesus is saying that there's going to be a judgment for people who do not do this. And I think in Matthew, you actually see that this is a way of Jesus' way of communicating that the temple will be destroyed and that all of it will fall. I think that's a way you can interpret this, right? But at the very least, it's saying if you don't do that, the great is going to be the fall of you when you come face to face with me, Yahweh, right? So it's a very important reminder of who Jesus is. And this is the summation of the Sermon on the Mount. Lots of wonderful ethical teaching, but it's done within a framework of Jesus taking the role of the divine lawgiver and holding His people accountable. Not unlike Sinai, not unlike the prophets in the Old Testament, right? So this is very clear what Jesus is doing. And this is clear if you read the rest of Matthew. So for us today, when we approach this text, we should see these laws as binding, right? We don't say, oh, these some people say, oh, we won't be able to do this until the new world, new heaven, new earth, whatever. No, right? We should attempt to do this now. And we should also understand that Jesus holds us to very high standards. Of course, like, because our eyes, hopefully, are on the good, right? We're doing after him. We believe in him, right? He preserves us from that, right? He talks about God preserving people, and that's all wonderful and great. So we have to remember that that's the part of it, right? It's not just divine commands without anything that God is giving us. God is giving us so much, and it's our response to that, following in what he's given us, that shows that we are in it with him, right? We are building our house on the rock. And that's hard, but it's the blessed life, right? And it has an authority and purpose in it that so many other things in this world just lack. Some of them can get close to it, but never quite reach the level that Jesus gives here. So that's what we talked about today. I hope you found that interesting. It's sweltering in here. I'm going to throw that AC on. I just had to record this video. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday and stay cool. And I'll see you tomorrow for an episode of A New Thing. Peace out.